All right, we're back again with Shoot the Bull. We have David Covington here. He's going to be our expert today. We're going to be talking about control burns. I'm going to hand it over to William and David and let them talk about this management practice.
So we're just going to talk about control burns. So really, we do some control burns on my place, but I'm wanting, the people watching, you educate them on, why you do control burns and when you do control burns and that type of thing.
You bet. Well, prescribed fire is it's probably one of the most economic tools there is, and I did a lot of whenever I retired from the game of fish, I was a I guess I wasn't a burn. I was an ignition boss, is what it was. But
Right.
they actually, they put a lot of money into their employees and stuff, and we went through a lot of training, a lot of classes and stuff. But there's a lot of opportunity out there for folks. Just prerequisite all this stuff with, you know. You need to know a little bit about fire if you're going. You just don't go out there lighting the world up. A lot of parameters to consider.
Yeah. The humidity and
Humidity, wind, topography. You know, what's don't just go out there and go live. You need to know what your fire breaks are. You need to do, whoever's responsible for the burn needs to kind of look at your fuel load, be thinking about these things. Um, how long is this fuel going to last? If it's a big old log pile and big trees, or if it's just good grass or something that's going to burn off real quick or fast or whatever. But when we're approaching a property and to burn, um, it's whenever I was with state, or if I'm doing it for myself, or I was out there helping you, I'd be thinking about all these things. I'd be thinking about, all right, what's the wind today, but what's it going to be tomorrow?
Right.
And and what's the long-term forecast? And so you're,
because you got snags and all kinds of other stuff you got to really watch out for too.
absolutely. I would say this, um, in today's world and today's environment, you need to have a plan. You need to, even though you got a good plan in your head, and I do this still, I'll write it down. I'll write down the number of people that I think I need, how long I think, what's my objective of the burn? Why am I burning? Am I just burning to be burning because everybody else is burning? You need to have a strategy. What's the desired outcome of that fire? And a lot of it, we use a lot of fire for controlling woody invasives and setting back succession of habitat. And so if if my objective is to kill a lot of bigger stuff, well, the fire needs to be a little hotter. It needs to be a slower duration fire, so it sits there and actually does the killing, that you want it to do. Um, we talk about, all right, the objective of the fire. Well, that's going to impact the timing of the fire. I mean, am I going to do it in the summer or the growing season, or am I going to do it in fall dormant season? If it's just leaf litter cleanup or whatever it is. So there's a lot of variables that goes into prescribed fire. Um, in my mind, it's usually to set back the succession of the habitat, to keep it young and fresh and coming on, and keeping that grassier component into the deal. If my canopy's closed, you're going to have to prerequisite the fire with some kind of a disturbance like logging or injection, or cut and drop or whatever. So it just depends on what your objective is, and in most cases, ours is strictly habitat driven.
I know on our property, we end up doing a lot of tree injection work early. Then we followed it up with fire. So it's pretty neat for us to be able to see the before and after. And we can look at it really side by side with my neighbor. I mean, you look across on our side, and I mean, you see a lot of grass growing and, a lot of different things growing up. But you look, just to my property, my neighbor's property, it's just closed canopy woods.
Yep.
There's not a lot of things there besides, like you said earlier, just, acorns and that type of thing. It doesn't have a lot of wildlife in it.
That's right. That's right. And it's not a one-time fix. I mean, like right now, you're started out, you opened up the canopy, you applied the fire to it, you got a response. So now the canopy's closing back up, so you're going to have to do it again. I mean, and so about every 3 to 4 or 5 years, depending on how fertile the soil is in the bottoms. Sometimes we're burning every other year on the same properties, trying to get you may have to do a fire 2 or 3 every time you get enough fuel to carry, you may have to burn it 3 times in order to get the desired result. Back to back as quick as you have the fuel load. So, these projects and the management plans are living, breathing documents, and so you gotta we always use this term. The tail don't wag the dog. It's your plan. You change it as you need to. So you may say I'm gonna burn every 3 years. You may find out that you may burn every other year, and then you may burn every 5 years or whatever. But the whole concept is be on top of your habitat
Mm-hmm.
and watch it, and monitor it, and see how it evolves. And I tell you a good thing to do. I'll take pictures, and a plot. You may stand in one spot and take a picture of 4 different cardinal directions, or do a little video clip,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of watch that and monitor that over time, and you can kind of see it
Yeah.
evolve, like you said. But there's always that you're doing it and you're setting it back, and then you got to keep doing it.
Right.
But
Yeah. So I know y'all help out with consulting on burns and different things. Then there's also the government side of it, which you've been involved on that. So tell us a little bit about kind of your past history there and what how they can help also.
yeah, yeah. Well, as far as the government itself, whenever I think of burning, you think Forestry Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys. That was their deal. They're still for hire. As a private person, they're booked up and they're hard to get
Mm-hmm.
a hold of because they're not a very big workforce in the scheme of things. But they're some of the experts that are out there. They can actually be hired to do it.
Right.
The Game and Fish has a private lands program that those guys they'll come out and do a habitat evaluation, and they'll write a plan and teach people how to tap into the resources you're talking about. But through equip, through there's the Game and Fish has this CIP that's
Mm-hmm.
available now where they're helping folks, trying to get them out there and encourage them. They're offering classes. I'm actually signed up
Really?
for a class. I'm believing continuing education and going and doing it. But I'm going to one over here they're putting on. It's a free class, and instead of just going out there and lighting a fire, you're
Right.
going to actually have a concept of how fire behaves, and that's important.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I've sat in a couple deals as an expert witness in lawsuits and stuff, and you don't want to be out there just
Right.
frivolously throwing this fire on the ground. You need to think about what you're doing, and but the money's definitely there to help you.
Yeah, I know us. I mean, they pay us so much a linear foot to put fire lanes in. They'll
Absolutely,
pay us so much an acre to burn, which also helps. Hiring people to help you burn and or consulting wise.
absolutely, absolutely. I figured up a deal for a guy the other day, and when it was all said and done, if you looked at the money that this guy was going to have to put out on this large property, it was like $2 million deal. I mean,
Wow.
over the course of it, when
Right.
you start converting native grasses and you
Mm-hmm.
start burning, and you got 3,000 acres out there, and you're doing it on a rotation, and you start incorporating all these practices in there, but this isn't like people want to talk about it's a government welfare program or whatever. It's not. What it is, you got a willing landowner, a willing participant that is offering up their property
Mm-hmm.
to be managed
Mm-hmm.
to promote wildlife, which is going to be able to spill over onto your property and
Right.
everywhere else. I've got one particular farm in Cross County, and you cannot believe the turkeys on that place. It's unreal. And
Oh, I love burning turkey.
but
It sucks some turkeys
it
in.
does, it does, it does. And but the thing is, this guy's spending his money managing his property, and if the government, I think it's a wonderful thing if the government's going to offer you some incentive to get out there and do these things, because those turkeys don't stay on my property. They don't stay on your
Right.
property. They're going to everybody else's. The
Mm-hmm.
same way with the deer, the same way with the quail, the same thing with everything. If we can get everybody out there doing a little bit, and if it takes a little financial incentive to get it done,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great thing. I mean, and it's benefiting us as a whole. I mean, in Arkansas, the wildlife's in a it's owned by the people. I
Right.
mean, and so no one owns them, and so when you're out there, and so I always see that habitat going on and those folks getting it done. I mean, in my particular neighborhood, there's probably 15 landowners in there, and
Yeah,
every one of them's getting a little bit of something from the government and some incentive. But I think about the in-kind match they have in it and the responsibility to get it all on there, and it's benefiting that whole drainage down through there. It's
sure.
a huge response. So,
Well, another thing I'd like to talk about, we talked a little bit about it, but it kind of goes in conjunction with burning is the tree injection. Uh, Talk a little bit about that. About the hack and squirt, or it may be hinge cutting, or different things, and why you do that, and burn also.
all right. Well, a lot of folks, timber management is a tough one with folks. It's a hard sell, and there's no pretty logging job out
Right.
there. And and that's a lot more. It's hard to sell a good logging operation as it is. The next best thing to, in my mind, is I can convince you to do some injection or hinge cutting or midi canopy work. And
Yeah, I mean, just like my property, the timber, it may be hundreds of years old, but it's a tree like this that's hollow in the middle. It doesn't have any value, so
right.
it doesn't make sense to go in there and spend the money to log it and
Mhm.
come up with all that. Where it may be better to do what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, yeah. You in the uplands like yours is up in the hills. The timber quality a lot of time is not there to attract a logger to come up there
Right.
and make it economical for him to get there. But the injection and the hinge cutting and just think about the injection. We thought everybody says TSI or wildlife stand improvement and all that stuff. What it really boils down to, and this is the analogy I use for people. It's like weeding your garden. All right, you got your crops out there. You're gonna go tear the weeds down around it. So if I got a good white oak tree here, and it's nice, beautiful tree, and then it's got a bunch of miscellaneous stuff around it, well,
Hmm.
everything touching that canopy or around it, I'm gonna kill that junk off of it. So it's getting all the water, and it's
Right.
getting all the nutrients, and it's able to put into it's a healthier tree, it's a more productive tree, and I'm knocking holes in the canopy, promoting herbaceous growth and trying to get that browse and that cover, the nesting and fawning cover that we're trying to get. So
And it burning works really good with it because you're killing all that little bee stuff, so you're not having to go back and inject that several
that's
years from
correct.
now.
So you're talking 3 inch sizes and bigger is really what you want to focus on. That smaller stuff the fire will handle.
Right.
And matter of fact, you don't. That's where the fine line on the prescribed fire is. If you're had to burn hot enough to kill that big stuff, you're scarring your good crop trees that you're
Okay.
leaving. And so,
Hmm.
all these practices kind of come hand in hand. You may do an injection and a burn, and then you may still do some cut and drop and some treat the stumps if you and I had a couple of these government programs that we've worked with, the crop tree release stuff where
Hmm.
they're going out there and picking so many trees and they're releasing around those and then leaving everything else undone. That's at first I was like, I don't know if I'm buy into this, but it's pretty cool looking when you see it out there. I mean, so you got this untouched area that's closed canopy, and then you got these released thickets around these crop trees, and then I'll take it a step further. If I get into an area that's just a solid gum thicket or stuff, and then I start thinking, all right, where my hunter's going to be, and when if it is a property that someone's going to be hunting, and I'll start thinking about those larger bedding areas and stuff, and I'll
Right.
use those same the injection, the hinge cutting, and all that other stuff to create those bedding areas
Mhm.
out there on those properties.
Yep.
So you said that normally you would burn spring, fall time. How about the injections? Does that matter? Or
You can pretty much, you can inject year round if you want to. I personally like to do it in the hottest, most stressful time of the year, and the reason being because I don't want you calling me back. I mean, if that tree's stressed and I put some chemical in it, it's
right.
gonna die.
Okay.
And I haven't done much dormant season injection and stuff. They say it works. I'm always scared whenever even a good injection job. A lot of times that following spring, those trees will leaf back out,
Really?
and then they'll brown out and die. And
Right.
but you start getting callbacks on that stuff, and you're like, they're gonna die. I promise.
Right.
But the last thing you want to do is go back and have to do it
Oh
again.
yeah.
You know, because I'm
It's
on the
not easy work, is it?
no, it's not easy work. It's hard labor, but it is rewarding because it's immediate. You know, you start seeing tip die back on the leaves pretty much the day after you do it, and then a lot of the softer trees will be dead and on the ground. And again, it's not pretty. I mean, you're going to have a lot of dead snags out there, but I want you to realize that's habitat.
Right.
If you got sick and dying trees in the forest, that's a good thing, and because the insects and stuff are not attacking the healthy trees. And then you cannot believe the woodpeckers and the flickers and stuff that come in there and work on that. And then you got the sloughing trees and bats are utilizing up under that bark and stuff. There's a lot, and anything that's the general rule is anything that's over 4 inches and laying on the ground's habitat. There's going to be worms under it. There's going to be stuff you'll see where, bears and whatever else are going to come in and roll logs back. So it's you're just setting everything back. It's just on a larger scale.
A lot of stuff I never even thought about.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for giving us
You
some
bet.
information
Thank
about
y'all.
control burns. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.